We're live. When I say we, I mean myself. Milo, say hello. Or don't get up at all. He's on guard duty. He's guarding that part of the carpet. Good morning, everybody. First of all, right off the bat, go get your project done, or at least get something done so that you can tell me tomorrow. And if you don't have something for us tomorrow, we're going to make fun of you for not getting something done. So get anything done, even if you just pick up a pen out of your center console and throw it away. That counts as something. So you got to let me know what you got done. I'm very excited. I'm heading down to West Tech, talk to my buddy Brule today. We got to talk about a lot of cool stuff about some testing that they have coming up for Engine Masters, which is awesome. They do a great job there. And I'm heading down to put together the 2.2 turbo motor. So hopefully I can get it up and do some testing on it. Also going to do some LS stuff while I'm down there. We'll have to see how much dyno time is available. It will be interesting. But I do want to get a couple things done. One, I want to get that 2.2 built. My goal is to go down, get it built, and get it running. And then if we get it running and it's on the dyno and I can make that work, then we'll do some testing with it. Because once it gets running and I can just do the tuning part of it and go, hey, look, it needs this much airfield, it needs this much timing. And we can figure out, actually, we ask the motor what it wants, and then we give it that. And then it tells us, hey, yes, I like that. And no, I don't like that. Or I'm not gaining anything, or I'm losing something, whatever. We listen to the motor, we listen to the dyno, and basically just provide what gives it the best power. So I want to run it NA. We'll do a bunch of that testing. We'll obviously run it with a turbo. I'm going to start off running it as the draw through, the way that this motor was originally designed. This is a T1, it's an 84 manual wastegate controller, but basically non-intercooled and has a throttle body mount in front of the turbo. So I'm excited about doing that. I'm always excited about running any turbo motor. I also have the flanges for the max speeding turbos, so I can run twins on that, which will also be good. We can do some different size turbos. We'll also run, Brian Tooley has sent me a couple of cams. They've got the low lift Truck Norris cam, and then also the hot rod cam, which should be a fairly sporty camshaft, good for a street strip kind of daily driver, moderate kind of deal. So we'll see how much power and how much different it is than the Truck Norris cam, because we'll have to run the low lift Truck Norris cam, and then also we'll run this hot rod cam. Then we can run turbos on it and see if every cam is indeed a turbo cam. But I think we know the answer to that already. The motor, the photo that I have in the thumbnail is of the 2.5 actually that was coming out of that I pulled out of the Omni that was in there when I bought the car. That one is going to get, while I'm down there, also going to get taken apart and then sent in for, we're putting new pistons in it and stuff, and going to get that running. It will be cool because it'll be a 2.5, it'll get a ported head, and then you get all kinds of stuff. So hopefully, the other thing I want to do is I do want to do testing comparing a 2.2 and a 2.5. So we want to run both of those. I just want to demonstrate, like, as a back-to-back thing with the same air fuel, the same timing. We can do this both NA and boosted. I just want to demonstrate to people. And we also want to run, which may or may not be the case in specific applications, but we would want to run also the same head and the same cam and the same intake manifold on both of those combinations. So I just want to demonstrate, first of all, what the change in displacement does. We also need to equalize the compression. If we can do that, we can do another test finding out what happens when we change compression, what happens when we put a smaller chamber head on, obviously camshafts and all that stuff. So there's like an unlimited amount of testing that I want to get done that hopefully will answer questions for the 2.2 guys. And maybe they already have these answers, but I want them because I can't find them. And then we'll be able to put this out in the internet world and show people, hey, look, here's what happened when we went up with 1 pound of boost, 5 pounds of boost, 10 pounds of boost, 20 pounds of boost, whatever. Here's what happened when we did intercoolers. Here's what happens when we did camshafts. Here's what happens with a roller cam, a flat tap, or a slider cam, all that stuff. And then the bathtub head and the 782, the swirl head, all of that. Does a swirl head, and I have the 2 heads that I'm taking down with me, and that's also on the list of things to do. That'll be like late night stuff where I'm doing flow testing on the flow bench to find out which one of these heads, what they do when they're stock. And then Brian from the car farm, shout out to Brian and Ben, are going to send out ported versions of these heads also that I can test, and we can see hey, which one of these things responded to the kind of porting? And I think he even he's got a whole bunch of the big valves that Mopar had in their catalog. So we've got we can do big valve versions of the heads. And obviously we'll be interested in, once we flow test them and see what the difference between the various heads are, between the bathtub head or the G head and the swirl head, when they're stock and then when they're ported. Then obviously we have to follow that up to get all of the information and find out what they do to power. And again, like I always do, or I always try to do, I want to find out what they do NA and then what they do under boost, because it might be that we just don't have enough motor NA to really take advantage of the extra airflow. But when we're trying to push this thing, maybe we get to a point where it's going to be better under boost. Who knows? That's why we test all that stuff, because that's good stuff. Let's see what kind of projects do you guys got going on? Or you have anything planned for today? You guys have anything that you're trying to get done? I've got some other projects that I'm working on. In addition to getting all that stuff loaded up in the truck, I've also got some, actually most of you guys have seen it. I've got part of the old tree fort that unfortunately no longer exists. Seems like the only time my sons wanted to play in it was actually while I was building it, making it obviously more difficult to put together. But we got it was part of the whole of them growing up. And so it was an awesome experience. And you have a lot of good memories from that. But I am repurposing some of that stuff, namely the bottom floor and also the top floor, and using those as shelving for my storage area down at West Tech, which I have two of them, and they're both in dire need of one of them more than the other. One of them I already built a bunch of wooden shelves for, and that's fairly well organized. In fact, I just took my leaf blower down there the last time to blow out all the dust, which was a ton. I really should have filmed it from the outside, because you would have saw all of this dust just rushing out of this poor little storage area. But the other one is full of stuff, so I need to now organize that so that I can go to different sections and have, hey, all the Cadillac stuff is here, and all the Barris stuff is here, and all the Slant 6 stuff is here, and that way I can, I want to have bins that, because when I take stuff apart, if you just take over a pile of parts and just set them in a storage area, stuff gets intermingled and there's cross-mogenation. And so when you go to get the stuff, it's just impossible. So I have a few shelving units in that one. And I have stuff on the shelves like the max speeding turbos and stuff. But I want to get all of it basically up on shelves and out of the way. And then I also need to get rid of some of the motors that are in there, and so that I can obviously put new versions in there that I want to test. So that's my goal for when I go down there. I think that they're filming Engine Masters next week, so that will limit some of the stuff that I'm able to do. But it's always cool to get to be down there and watch what they're doing and talk to Dulcich and Freiberger, and obviously see my buddy Brule and Troy and Ish and Eric and all the guys. And everybody down at West Tech, and the owner, Rick, hopefully he's there, because he's a super cool guy. He's got lots of great stories. He's been doing all this stuff a long time. Got lots of cool Corvettes and stuff. So we got SEMA coming up, which I will be speaking at for two conventions or whatever, that there are two discussions that they're doing. So I will be there working and obviously walking around talking to all, because SEMA is kind of a cool deal, because you get to go there and a lot of times I see people from across the country or talk to them on the phone, but I don't usually get to see them in person, all the guys from Holly and Airflow Research and all that stuff. So I get to go by and actually, see the guys face to face and talk to them, which is always good. It's always good to see people. So those are all coming up. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting my hands dirty building a 2.2 liter motor. I've already done one. I did the one that was put in the car. Now it's coming back out, because now they're going to be painting it and stuff. But I'm excited about getting that back, which hopefully will be back for, sometime after the first of the year. I'm hoping March or April or something like that. So then I can get it here. We'll take it to West Tech. We'll run it, make sure that it's all working okay on the chassis dyno, and then we'll get it, take it to a ref station and get it smog checked and go through all that process, and then get it registered and drive it around. And it'll just be cool to have a zoomy little turbo hot hatch. So that's cool. So let's see what you guys got going on. High compression motor. So I'm scrolling. Get her done. I burned the plug wire out of my car. Well, that's an easy fix, right? So you could put a new one in there. Did you get a 2.2 head back from David? No, I don't have that. This week has been productive. Did some maintenance on my Miata. New plug wires, injectors, alternator, water pump. O2 sensor, remove the AC power steering, swapped it to a single roll pulley. That's a lot. High compression motors sound good. Kind of wonder how a 15-to-1 416 would sound. A 416, you should be able to get to 16 or 15-to-1. What are you doing back there, Milo? Sometimes it's hard to get that much static compression without, having to go to the extreme on, dome on a piston, and then you run into, well, did the added compression actually help you or hurt you because of, flame travel, and there's a lot of other explanations on that. Thermal efficiency, mechanical efficiency, and there's a trade-off between the two. So there's a lot going on there. We need to see a turbo Magnum. Also, yeah, I have the 360 Magnum. We need to do that. Working on an 88 Daytona T2 turbo, also cool. Frosty cold beverage. Trying to locate a Nissan HR10 DD engine for the LSR land speed record car. What? I'm not familiar with that engine, John. What is that? Still cleaning my 65 Rambler. That's a good one, though. But he's trying to convince me to drop a built 4-cylinder in it. He has attached to a T56. Does a 4-cylinder, is it a turbo 4-cylinder or something? I was going to say, does a 4-cylinder need a T56, or can it use something, a different 6-speed? Fixing my daily Audi A4 2-liter turbo, oil leak, timing chain, injectors, carbon clean. That's good. Got to clean up the garage. I have to do that also. I have to organize mine. It's reasonably clean, but it needs to be organized. And in fact, I'm going to bring a bunch of the parts that I brought home where we did the opening from the guys from Speedmaster and Airflow Research. And I'm going to bring those back down so we can try testing those as soon as I get the pistons and rods for the trophy 4-cylinder. Have you tested the max being 3582 on an LS? Not yet. That's when I go down there. Those are the, I'm going to run hopefully the 3582s and the 3076s. I like to see a video on how fuel type affects power and limits of each fuel and various displacement LS motors with and without boost. So you want to see the limit of the fuel, like a knock limit or something? Fuel type, other than going from like gasoline to E85 to methanol, that can affect the power a lot. Going from 100 octane to 114 octane or 118 octane is not going to change power hardly at all, unless one of those is oxygenated. Like a lot of times the 100 that we use is oxygenated. You can sometimes see a little bit of a power difference there. But even going from like on our NA motor, if we have a 9.5-to-1 LS1 or a L53 and LM7 or any of those, if we have like it's 9.5-to-1 and we put a cam in it, and let's say it's making 460 horsepower or something, and we go from 91 to 100 to 110 to 118 or whatever, it doesn't do anything to power. It has no effect at all. The octane rating doesn't change the power output. If you need more octane because you have lots of boost or you have lots of static compression or you have a low detonation threshold for whatever reason, and then the octane can cure that and not make it misfire or allow you to run more timing. And a lot of people think that, even on a 9.5-to-1, if I can run more timing, yeah, but we already have all the timing that combustion chamber wants. It is already making peak power on 91 octane at 30 degrees of timing. Going to 31 doesn't add any power. Putting 100 in it and going to 31 doesn't add any power. It's already where it wants to be. If you can't get to where it wants to be without detonation, then octane can help you and make more power. Let's see. My tune was perfect all summer, but now that it's 40 in the morning, I have some cold start issues. But if it's 40 in the morning, it should be making more power too. Sent you an email of my outdoor machine shop. At a ring gap to a 2.5 turbo Chrysler. It was 18. I filed the top rings at 24 and the bottoms at 26. Rehone it clean, lube, assembly short. Good. We did ring gap on the one that we put together for the 2.2, the 87 2.2 for my Omni. Over the weekend, my boy and I put an AX15 trans in the back of an aluminum headed 318. Nice. It's a Nissan K series he ran on nitrous. Cool. Body work for the Chevelle this weekend for 30 more weekends. That's a lot of weekends. Are you going to test the Carter style Holly? I'm not familiar with that carburetor. I'm leaning towards just doing a healthy small block or keep the inline heritage and go with the turbo on a 4-liter. What ring gap did we run? Did I run on the 2.2? I think it was in the low to mid 20s, if I remember right. I think we were at about 6 or 6.5. Yeah, I think it was 22 or 23. What do you know about the Edelbrock 4150 carburetor? I forgot to ask Relay when I was on the phone with him to see if they had one of those. He said that they were going to have one to do some testing with. I'd like to see. I saw Uncle Tony make a post about it, about how it nuked the Holly carburetor. It's such clickbait BS. I'd like to see. The problem is, or the potential for something like that being so much better than something else that's already really good is difficult. I'd like to run one to see what it does, just to see if it's good out of the box. Like when we go get a carburetor out of the box and put it on, like I ran the Quadrajet on the 400, it worked fantastic. I ran a Holly on there and it worked and made the same power, because if it provides the right air fuel, chances are it's going to do fairly well. Now, there are other things that are going on there too, and things that would be going on that we wouldn't necessarily be doing on the engine dyno response and stuff, but we can also do that. I mean, we can we can do the we can do the cam, we can do power valves, we can do squirters, we can do rods, we can do all of that stuff on the thing. And if we do it on the engine dyno, it's going to be pretty close on the street or on the track, because having gone from one to the other many times, it's not that hard to do. But I would still like to try the Edelbrock one, and just to see, and more to look at the carburetor and see what they changed. Like what did you do that's different? Did you just now have a version because people don't like the Edelbrock or Carter or that version of the carburetor as well? Or maybe they have a preconceived notion that that's not as much of a performance carburetor and it's more of a driver carburetor. So now you want to offer, is it a marketing thing? Now you want to offer a performance carburetor? Like, what is that? What is that whole story? I should be getting my 82 millimeter stroke VW crank for my 2276 in the mail. Nice. I'm so discouraged right now. My H22 head that I brought to the machine shop is cracked and can't be fixed. Uh-oh. The only other head I have was teach myself how to port on it. I'm afraid to run it. Well, did you teach yourself? Did you learn? Is it right? It's got to be pretty good, as long as you didn't port through to water. Yeah, John, just get it running, man. A K70-4K 1.3 liter Weber AMR 500. Just got it running after 3.5 years. Nice. Congratulations. It is just having it run and be alive, and then drive in a car is even better. Like when we started the Omni motor, it's good, but actually, even like I said, just driving it down the road and shifting gears, not racing it around, but just having it do the things it's supposed to do is kind of a cool deal. If my cam recommends a 3500 stall converter, but I use a 2500 stall converter, what exactly is going to happen? It'll just feel sluggish down low. Now I have a car halfway in my garage blocking everything because I had to cut a ball joint. That's what happens. It's just right in the way of everything, right? When you disable it, it's going to be disabled in a way and in a position that limits you from getting other things done. That's part of the car life. Last motor I took to the machine shop, I came home with one good cylinder head from a V8. That's not good. Yeah, I think you need both of them. That's why you got to get them from the wrecking yard, because they're both good-ish. So it might be that when I go down there, if there's not a lot of dyno time available, it might be going down and doing lots of building. So if I can get the 2.2 together and ready to go, that would be good. Then I can also put others together. If I can't run the motors on the dyno, which I'm hoping that I can, I think I will be able to run at least some. Then I think I can also put together I think the Slant 6 is ready to go back together. And also the Atlas is ready to go back together. Anyone got some 3V tuning advice? Yes, they need to be tuned. Tuning is good. When we ran ours, when I did all the testing on the 3-valve on the 4.6, we didn't even run variable cam timing, which obviously limited its appeal and its power potential. Every time I take something to the machine shop, it ends up being $200 more. You know, Barry, that's what I feel like anymore when I go to the wrecking yard now. I go there and I'm like, I'm going to go get a $300 motor. And they're like, okay, that'll be $518. I'm like, how did it go from there to there? And from a percentage standpoint, that's like such a huge jump. It may only be a couple $100 or whatever, but that's a lot. That could be a whole nother motor. But from a percentage standpoint, that's such a huge amount. I want to see more of the Atlas. Me too. Why didn't you run variable cam timing on 3-valve? Because we were running it with a faster Holley and it won't run variable cam timing. Yeah, the salvage scrappers, that's where they saw that, because when guys can go to the wrecking yard, take it out and pay to buy it and then resell it online, these guys were like, well, we're obviously not charging nearly enough. And unfortunately, and when that Holdner guy goes on there and does all of these wrecking yard engines and making 1 million horsepower, they're like, oh yeah, we need to sell, these are race motors now, we need to sell these for a lot more money. Yeah, Admiral, I wish we could have run the variable cam time, because it certainly would have helped with, we ran a Vortec or Paxton on it. We also ran turbos on it. We tried ported heads and stuff. And the things that we tried, obviously it would have been much better with not a fixed cam. Now we did do our own version of a variable cam by moving it one tooth. I think we retarded it in that case. And it did pick up power. It did pick up power at the top with our one tooth manual cam adjustment. I'll be posting something today on injectors about what kind of person you are. Are you a I'm going to fix my own stuff and make it work because I'm all about that low budget, or are you a buy new injector kind of guy? I think we know what most everybody is. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do this. So while we're, having our chatty chat, I can go on here. I need to find an injector photo. So let's see where I'll find an injector photo. Springs. Nitrous. We like that. Ooh, there's a picture of Lisa. Let's see. Honda photos. I don't know if I'll see any there. Snow Performance Water Methanol Injection. Ooh, the Sprint. There's the Sprint Turbo with the... Does that have the... Oh, that has the little Turbonetics turbo on there. But not the... It doesn't have the compound setup on there, though. The compound setup was cool. Bonneville Civic. Ooh, did I ever show you guys the rubber band car that was out of Bonneville? That was really cool. Yes, a rubber band car powered by rubber bands. They're big industrial rubber bands. Del Sol, the Del Slow. Still working out, I'm going to get back to you guys in just a second so that I can answer more questions. But I was waiting for some questions to come up because there weren't any there. Direct fit cams. Just need a picture of a fuel injector. Come on now. Lots of nitrous. No, I think you'll work. Copy. And paste. Boom. And just like that, we have an injector photo. Let's see. Sloppy is selling cams. Now, Mike or Matt's been selling cams for quite a while now, for a few months. Eric. Yeah, but on a boosted double overhead cam 4 valve. What was the previous statement? Did you make something before that? I don't see anything. Oh, North Star. And I'm scrolling. Nope, I don't see. Six-speed Gen 2 LT1 has run 697 at 211. Can you test a Big Bang LT1? Was that an actual? Because I don't think he's running the stock block in that anymore. And it's not a stock bottom end. It's forged rods and forged pistons and that stuff. I think it is. I don't think it's a stock bottom end. I think it's a stock block. It was, and then I think he's since changed that. Dailies, I got a $50 2.5 TBI block and a G head. If I add ring gap, can I run the G head and a TBI piston on boost? Yes, you can run. We would ideally, if I was putting one of these motors together to make power, it wouldn't be where the stock compression ratio is. It would be much higher than that. With injectors, if they're not new, I won't buy them unless they have been flow tested. Edelbrock versus spray plate versus Demon. What's a spray plate? I have a whole bag of 5-liter used injectors. We have boxes of those. The little yellow or orange 19-pounders for the 5-liter Mustangs. We had a bunch of those. Would you have any reservations rebuilding 706 Cadillac heads? I've heard bad things about. I've never had a problem with any of those heads, and we've run endless amounts of those and never had problems. We've even run ones that we've seen cracks on. What programs do you use to tune the engines running? On the engine dyno, I run Holley. I have run Fast in the past, and also now MS3 Pro, although I've only used that on the Atlas 4-valve motor because it has variable cam timing. And so we use that, and it worked very well. But usually Holley HP. Supercharger heat control for air and the unit using methanol injection. What do we use to control discharge heat from the supercharger? An intercooler is the best thing. And then a combination of intercooler and E85, an intercooler and methanol would be the ultimate thing. Matt is selling an offshore best cam and a domestic best cam, different price points. So I think he had so it sounds like he had the best cam, had somebody copy it, and then took it offshore so that he could make more money off of it, is what it sounds like. You had mentioned last week about the injector further away, making more power than closer. Is there an ideal distance from the back of the valve? No, there's not an ideal distance. What you're trying to do is inject the fuel so that it has a maximum amount of time for charge cooling, is because that's where you're getting the power from. You're getting it from charge cooling. The old Formula Ones used to aim the injector away from the valve toward the incoming air on their applications. How big of an injector would I need to make 200 horsepower? Well, we use our rule of 16, but we'd only use our rule of 8 because it's a 4-cylinder. 50-pound injectors would allow you to make 400. 50-pound injectors would be 100 horsepower per hole. So 30s would certainly do it. 30s, you could do 60 per hole. So it'd be 240. So 30s or 36s would be fine, or bigger if you end up going with something else, or you want to leave yourself room to run E85. I meant to say, so Eric, you want to run variable cam timing on a double overhead cam 4-valve, right? You want that to be something that, like, we have done that. We did that on the Coyote because we ran it with a factory ECU on the Coyote. Hey Richard, I like the 4G63 video. Oh, the previous live feed that we did where that was the thumbnail. Cletus is talking about getting a CNC. He already has a Steve Morris motor in it now, but he's talking about stepping up to go the full whammy, I think. Mike's in the house. Project for day is finished putting my Turbo 8.1 back together after killing the camshaft. So are you going to have to put the stock cam back in it? You don't have another aftermarket cam for that, Mike? Sean, I'm going to have to look that up. I still don't know what that... I'm going to look it up. Power glass plate. It may be something that we've seen. If it's the thing that I'm thinking it is, then... Oh, yeah. I've seen the ones that are a cover over that. And yeah, we've tested that. I'm doing my third LS swap. This one going on the 70 C10. Nice. That's a good looking truck. Putting a cam and intake on the LQ9. Looking for tuning software to learn the skill. Well, you can tune the factory ECU And in fact, Matt at Sloppy has tunes for you that you could just put in there. And if you're just learning tuning, whether it's on a Holly or a Fast or a stock 1 HP tuners or whatever, there's going to be specific things that you have to learn that are part of that system. The way that you go, you're ultimately you're manipulating the air fuel and you're manipulating the timing. How you do it with each one of those can be different, depending on whether it's a speed density or MAF or whatever. But the thing I would say is it would be a lot easier for you to learn on a setup that's already working right. And then you manipulate it a little bit and like, okay, it's working right. It has the right air fuel. Now what happens when I change this value? Only change it a little bit and go, oh, well, it does this. And then you learned what it did. Learning from scratch on a system or learning how to tune as a big general thing on a system with a motor that's not running is really, really hard because it's really easy to ruin stuff if you do that. But if you have something that's already working and you make small changes to it, then you can just go back to the way that it was. If you're having to load some sort of file in there, hopefully somebody has a get it started file where you can just get it running. But if it doesn't even do that, sometimes it's a lot more difficult to go that way. Didn't the Impala SS have an LT1? Yes, it had a version of that motor. Also came with an L99, the 4.3 liter. Howard's cams or comp cams for power and works great on advanced timing. I don't know what you mean by advanced timing. You put the cam in and set it up the way that they want you to set it up, with the way that they recommend. Let's see. Question, I watched one of your older videos about advancing your cam. So if you have a cam that makes power 3,000 or 7,000, could you advance it and get more down low? Maybe. Sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. I'm having an autofocus issue here. Come on. There we go. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And also the amount that you're able to change it is not a lot. You can't change the cam fundamentally by just advancing it or retarding it. And then sometimes, like I did the LS9 cam and it didn't change the power at all. You can also just hurt power by doing it. I think I answered the 706 Cast Tech questions. I use them all the time and I've never had any problems with them. If you feel that that's an iffy situation, just go to the wrecking yard and get 862s. Can't wait for a new cam to be cut. It's your daily. Okay, so you got to get it back together. Do you have any, don't some of the other 502s or other kinds of cams fit in there? Any input and ideas on future project cars that are not mainstream? Like for something that you want to do or something that I would want to do? Eric, I'm planning on putting a standalone on my LH2 Northstar with boost in the future someday. That's good. I have a Northstar that I can run. I'm hoping to be able to run that. I don't know when, but sometime. Can't find any cold start injectors in the junkyard for more boost on a stock 2.2 turbo. I heard you can use NOS nozzles or something to add fuel at a Hobbs switch at 15 PSI. Does that work? I'd like to see, I've never tested the spray pattern of an injector nozzle at 15 PSI. I'd like to see what that does. It has to work because the carbureted versions have used that and they run it at low pressure. I mean, they only run it at 6, 7, 8 PSI. So it would have to work. How do you get a tune for Matt? You need to go to Sloppy Mechanics, and then wherever his cabinets are, you need to go to there and look up the tunes. I'm sure if you go onto Sloppy Mechanics, everybody would be more than willing to help you. Okay, just rolled in. It's a 2.2 what? The 2.2 that I have in the Dodge Omni is a Dodge 2.2 turbo. That one's actually a 2.5. The one that I'm working on is a 2.2 that I'm putting together. Caprice came with an L99. Impala SS came with the LT1 iron-headed version. That's why I want Richard to test an LT1. It would be good to test an LT1. It'd be easy to do a big bang on one because there's the one that I would get would not be a Corvette one or a Camaro one because those are harder to find. There's lots of them in the Caprices though. I would just put, we'd put ported aluminum heads on it. Yeah, Mike, that's the thing. You're right. It's a 496, even with a stock cam on it and boost. It's would be a lot of fun to drive around. 2.2 Chrysler. There was a 2.2 Chevy. Yeah. Yeah, Matt has lots and lots of tunes for turbo stuff, for different. He has his don't BS me stuff. So you use a VS Racing 78, 75 and 80-pound injectors, and he has tunes for all that stuff. The 2.5 is going to go on the engine dyno to begin with. I didn't pick up another Omni. I have one Omni. All right, Chris, man. Be safe out there. Oh. Cadillac did have a North Star that was a 4.6. Do I own any fast vehicles? Not right now. I have a stock Silverado. The Omni is I don't know. That's probably not fast because it's all stock or stock T2. The 240Z doesn't have a motor in it. The Mustang was really fast. It was like 200 mile an hour fast. The Civic used to be 200 mile an hour fast, or 227, but that was sold. The Mustang, I guess, has the most potential once I put a motor back in it. Maybe I'll come down to West Tech while you're there and have Ish tune it on the rollers for the stock cam. Yeah, you probably just might have to take away some fuel or something. Although you might have to add some at the bottom, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how big a cam was in it before that you're going down to the stock cam on. For Quadjet, would you recommend keeping the original one? Yeah, if you want to rebuild it, you can rebuild it if it needs that. Otherwise, they actually work really well. Just if you might need to tune it based on your combination, a lot of times the Quadjets work really well for the stock combination. But then if you put a camshaft in it or make the motor bigger, those kinds of things, sometimes you might need to, change the metering rods and stuff and the jetting in it. Get a second Omni. Got it. Put a cage in it. The standing mile car. The Mustang could already do that. The Mustang with like an LS, a standing mile or standing half mile car would be could already do that. It already has the cage in it from when I was showroom stock racing and running it at the Silver State. Then the 3-valve stuff have major issues in the 4.6. Some of the modular motors, I'm told, had issues with having not enough thread engagement in the spark plug and it knocking plugs out of it. We never had any of that happen on the dyno. The Z would be faster with an engine. I have a L series turbo that we're going to do a bunch of testing with, and I'm hoping to put that in there along with a 5-speed. 218, 212. I don't know what the stock specs are, Mike, but it's gonna have some. That's gonna require some tuning. We'd love to see you build your Silverado to your spec since you know so much. My Silverado is already built to the spec. It's all stock because I just replaced the transmission in it. And so that's why I wouldn't ever do anything to that. I have to have one stock thing that I can use to haul stuff around and pick up motors and stuff. I don't care about having a fast daily driver. An OS Geiken head on the Z, no. I would rather just put the RB25 that I have in it. I like to hold the Monero. Just got a GTO in Australia once the car had 25 years old. It could be ported to the States. Yeah, Mike, I remember you telling me about that. You ran it for a long time with a stock cam. When you did it with the other cam, did it feel quite a bit better? I mean, it should make more power at the same boost with the other camshaft. That should be a noticeable difference. An OS Geiken head. I would say that it used to be that the OS Geiken head cost more than the Z did, but now they're starting to be real money. Francisco's in the house. Everybody does that. That's why I did not put an SR20 in my 510. Those are cool. I have seen 510s with turbo rotaries in them. An RB26 is very cool. Yeah, those are big money now. Iron heads or aluminum heads for porting. They both do the same thing. You can make both of them better for porting. Most guys like porting aluminum much more than they like porting iron because iron is tedious. In 3 years, the Skyline R34 can be imported. I do like the Skylines a lot. These oddball times are throwing off your nap schedule. I know it does cut in. I'd like to do it every day at 7, but I have other things that I have to get done. I want to be there for when my boys leave for school, and I want to take care of all that stuff. So that it just runs into that. Otherwise, it'd have to be from 7 to 7:30 or 7:40 or something. I want to put an RB25 in my 510. I'd have to move the radiator. Yeah, it's pretty long. I want to see somebody put an RB20 in there because it's absurdly long and then small in displacement. Aluminum heads will allegedly allow you to use one more point of compression than iron heads without detonation. I don't know that it's that simple. Mike, did you run your 5.9 Magnum on your turbo deal on the engine dyno? Yeah, the RB20 is exactly the same as it's the same architecture as the 25 and the 26. It's just that the bore and stroke are different. What do you think of Nissan's variable compression? I think it's an interesting idea, and I kind of like it. Usually, the way that they're able to achieve that is problematic. Larry, where you been, man? We didn't even have a poll. You have a dream over there, Milo? It's probably chasing squirrels or something. So we'll do a quick poll. Setting up the poll. Give me a moment. Ooh, just fits. Right? Did I get it? There you go. Okay, so the poll for today, and we have only a few minutes left. Dodge 2.2 versus 2.5. The steel crank that they use in the 2.2, they use a cast crank in the 2.5. The steel crank, smaller displacement 2.2 Dodge Turbo is a better choice to make big power with than the larger cast crank 2.5. Well, let's see what you guys have to say. Do a 2JZ versus 2.2 poll. So which one of those is better? No, sir, just in the car. It's on a run stand now. So Mike, did you run it on the chassis dyno, or did you run it at the track or anything? Larry, we got a poll up just for you. 4.5 Titan versus a 2JZ. Did you guys see that Dart is making a 2JZ block now? Saw a YouTube short recently. They said 1,000 horsepower K24 will have combustion chamber distortion. So is it a problem with the head then? I can see the SN95 going up in value. And we're sure having beautiful weather here in northern Michigan. It's nice here in Cali. BWS, are you asking what injector size you should use for a turbo 302? Is that your question? In Craigslist, there's a 1969 Skyline GTR. What is that? What is a 69? Is that the OG one? The NA one? Okay, Dale, you have a 2.2 forged crank and it weighs a lot more. Yeah, we actually weighed them, and it was in the range of 20 or 30 pounds, if I remember right. And now that I want to go back and do that, I'm gonna have to call Ben and Brian and see if I want to weigh a cast and a forged 2.2 crank, and then also the cast 2.5 crank, because I don't know if the change in stroke, if that crank by itself, because of its change in stroke length, has any effect on weight. I'd like to see that, but we know that the forged crank weighs more. Yep, Eric, the 2.2 has a better rod ratio, right? Always choose a steel crank. Larry, I'll always choose a steel crank for high output, especially for higher RPM. Well, that's the thing. If it's a smaller motor, it's going to have to run more engine speed to make more power. But we are limited by head flow to how much like RPM we can run. We don't have a 4-valve head to supply lots of airflow where we can run this thing at a high engine speed. I just don't think it's going to work. I think we kind of have a ceiling limit based on the available head flow. Even if we put a short runner intake manifold and camshaft on it, I think we have an ultimate ceiling of where this thing is going to want to be in terms of power production. The 2.2 would help that, because with a 2.5, that ceiling would come down even further based on the available head flow. This is all theory and conjecture on my part right now, but I think ultimately we do have that. I just like having an E7 TE head to deal with. If we have a stock head and we have that kind of head flow, we're limited in where it's going to want to support power. Same thing with this little Dodge. So if you're trying to make lots of power, most of the guys I've seen, they've all used a 2.5. And I just wonder and they've all used the cast crank 2.5. I don't know if these guys have built had cranks built for them. Yes, Dart makes a 2JZ block. Have you ever broken a cast crank and high horsepower builds? Never. We always like Fords, but cast cranks aren't that bad. Judging by what we do with the LS stuff and all the other big bang things, to me, a crank is just a crank. They're all the same. They need to make a 2JZ head. That would actually be something that somebody should do. Although I don't know what the copyright or infringements would be for something like that, or patent laws apply to that. Richard, it was in my 72 Dart for about a year, road race style with a hot gas setup. Cool. Who would you recommend for installing an aftermarket cam for a 472 Cadillac? I don't know. I'm not in Orange County, and I'm not in LA, but I'm in Northern California, actually. So I don't know who could do that. The original Skyline looks like a 510. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about. Paul Walker had one of those in one of the Fast and Furious movies. Richard, I leave my computer on all night. That's the kind of guy we want. Playing your videos. You're always on when I walk in. I hope it helps their channel. Good. We want to see 1 million views on something. I did have my first 1 million view. It actually was a reel on Facebook, and it's the one where we're fixing the injectors by tapping on them. That one's over 1 million views now. Mass air size in relation to injector size. I like to oversize with 80s for the future. 81 potential, but I have the matching mass air to injector on a larger injector isn't always the best. We've used back in the day when we were doing 5-liter stuff. We always had in the mass air meters calibrated to our injector size, and it always worked great. We had back then, but it was Bob Atwood who I think was the best at that with Pro M calibrating the meters. We never went to 80s. We only went to 36s or 42s back then because we usually had enough to do what we were doing because we weren't making 1 million horsepower back then, but they work really well. Or you could just get rid of that and use speed density and hook up any one of the many different standalone setups for that. I have a question. I have a Gen 6 454 I got for free. That's the best kind. At bare minimum, I want to do the oil pump and cam. The truck would be best for daily driving. I want a little fun. If you're just doing a mile, look at the Comp Cams catalog. They have a few different Gen 6 motors, 454s. Put a mild camshaft in it. So I'll give you an idea. 212, 218, like Mike put in his in that 8.1. So that's a computer controlled hydraulic roller cam. Yeah, 258, which is a 206, 212. That would be like your quintessential RV cam, or 212, 218, which would be a 264. Those are 510 lift, 113 lobe separation angle. You could do something like that, and either one of those would be good for a daily driver. I have a 2.5 tall deck block with longer rods. Gonna Uncle Tony's garage propane the pressed dish pistons out for the 2.2 flat tops for a high compression 2.5 tall deck block. It has a better rod ratio. I remember reading that, not Uncle Tony's thing, but there is on either Mini Mopars or Allpar or one of those places has a discussion about the tall deck block and the long rod ratio. And if you could find a way to do that test where all you changed was the rod length and you're not changing the compression or changing the weight of the piston, what you'll find is in this RPM range, that rod ratio is not going to do anything. It's not going to change it at all. That would be my theory. Is there any benefit on running 85 on a turbo small block daily driver? Yes, the E85 will always make more power, and it always has more octane, so you could then run more timing to make even more power. So if that's what you want, it definitely has a benefit. It's just that you have to weigh the cost versus fuel mileage and all that. Richard, have you ever seen a 727 cubic inch big block from Sonny's? We've seen 800-inch stuff. They've run some of that stuff at West Tech. I don't know. I think I remember seeing a Sonny's engine or a couple of them run at West Tech from customers that had them. What size is the motor in Finnegan's boat Game Over? I don't know what his is. I've seen two 2.8 liter Chevy V6 engines that had broken cranks. A broken crank usually is the result of not crank strength breaking from excessive cylinder pressure or power production. It's usually some other kind of catastrophic thing, like a lack of oil or an overabundance of detonation. FMUs and injector calibrated meters. What a time to build a 5 liter. Yeah, and we didn't even, after we went to calibrated or calibrated mass air meters, we went away from the FMU stuff after that. So thank you for going out of your way to answer the questions. Let's see. E85, Mike, you're right. E85 is like race gas from the pump, which I really like it, and it's so convenient for when I'm at West Tech. With the 85, you get to go to the gas station more often and buy more snacks, so you get more Slim Jims. I've seen broken crank motors actually continue to run too. One of the big block Chevys that I got, which I should have been able to discern this when I was at the wrecking yard, had a broken crank in it when we found that out after pulling it and getting it back over to West Tech. I really only cared about the block because we were going to do a 496 anyway, but it would have been nice to have all of the stuff there and running so that we could run it and do that stuff beforehand. But snap into a Slim Jim. So we'll go ahead and close our poll out at 68% saying yes, the steel crank is a better idea than the 2.5, even though the 2.5 is going to make more power. That's interesting. So steel crank, still embedded in us for the most power. Yeah, a lot of the gas stations and also like truck stops, which is where I stop to get fuel. Like on the Love's truck stop that I stop on the way down off of Highway 5 has the best fuel price. So I always stop there for filling up the truck. And then the truck stops usually have good places. I mean, they have an Arby's there, so it's hard to go wrong with the cherry turnover. I mean, come on, they have the meats. But they also have lots of other cool stuff on the different truck stops, which I got to see a lot of them when I was driving across to go see the car farm out in Ohio. Yeah, Casey, that's bad. When the VW crank breaks, it takes the case out and does a lot of other damage. If just one thing would break in the motor, that would be nice. But all those things are attached and connected and interdependent on each other. And so they end up like, oh, here, I'm going and I'm taking all of you with me. So update on a little Easter egg that I had on one of the previous live feeds. I had another interview today or yesterday, and that's all. I heard a 2.5 can't breathe at high RPM with 8V heads. Chrysler made a double overhead cam 2.5 NA with 154 horsepower, but never put it into production. Well, they made a double overhead cam 2.4 in the Neon, and that worked fine. Or no, the Neon was a single cam, right? Did they in the SRT motor they did a twin cam, right? Or did the Neon motor also come with a twin cam version? I think it did. Interview for work. No, it doesn't mean less live streams. Nothing will mean nothing will mean fewer YouTube stuff. Yeah, so I thought that they had both single cams and double overhead cams. Yeah, Dan, that leaving the transmission in gear is not a good thing. And I'm guilty of that, not towing it behind another vehicle. Like we obviously towed the Omni, but two things: it's a front wheel drive, and also it didn't have a transmission in it, so we were good. But I did in our World Challenge car. We put the car in the trailer and then put it in gear because it didn't have an emergency brake, and then blocked everything and strapped it down, but left it in gear. And the thing from moving back and forth ended up damaging the transmission. So, important safety tip. Yeah, the thumbnail's upside down. That happens. I need to go and flip it over. And and all the guys from Australia know that that's a like shout out to those guys. That's my thumbs up to my Australian friends. 95 ACR. It was double overcam, 2-liter, made 150 horsepower stock. See, that's even more than the turbo 8-valve made, although not the intercooled version. 4G63 block looks similar to a 2.2 block. I think 1,000 horsepower is possible with the 4-valve 4G63, yes. With an 8-valve 2.2 that has half of the head flow of a 4G63 ported head, that'd be a tall order. See, it's the right way up for you guys. That's right. 95 Eclipse is the 4G63. Yep. Is the Eclipse 4G63 different than the Evo 4G63, or are they different versions of the same motor? I'm not that hip on all the 4G63 stuff. Dan, none of the guys will be giving up their steel crank for the increase in displacement when I show them a back-to-back test of what the bigger motor does. And all of the guys that are drag racing, the guys that are running 10s and now 9s, I think, with the 8-valve stuff, with turbo versions, they're all running the 2.5. They're all running the bigger motor. Yeah, Eric, mice do love wiring harnesses. That's for sure. Less head flow just means more boost. It really does. You can. At some point, though, it becomes hard to overcome the limitations in what the motor would be doing NA with that head flow. And so more head flow is better, always. Is 400 horsepower possible with a 2.2? Not according to the head flow, it's not. You'd have to, that'd be a lot. It's 134 inches or so. That'd be a lot. Gene, playing hooky. The Galant VR4 is a car that I like. It's that car to me is the equivalent of the Granada or the Fairmont. Can't find Thunderbird turbo coupes. I saw recently within the last year or so 2 of the super coupes, but I don't remember seeing any of the turbo coupe ones. And they were cool looking cars too. Yeah, I agree, Sean. The VR4 is definitely cool. 2 more minutes. Richard, I have a 92, I believe, GTC LeBaron with a 2.2. It was spiking at 15 pounds. Now it only has 8. Do you have a boost leak, or the blades, the variable vane turbos could be like gummed up? That's pretty common on those. The variable vane stuff is a T4 car. That's better than all the lesser T3 and T2 and T1 cars. I think I'll get some Arby's after the stream. Curly fries. Yeah, you got to get the curly fries. It's like, why are you even asking? Of course, I want curly fries. My go-to at Arby's are sliders and the usually chicken sliders, and then if you're there, you got to get a cherry turnover. Would an HX35 or GT35 go good with a street 2.5? It's going to be like a GT3582 is going to be a little on the big side because that's like a 500 or 600 horsepower turbo. So I don't think the response is going to be what you're going to like for a 2.5 unless you're wanting to wick the thing up. I think something smaller for more response is going to be funner. I have an EFR turbo with a compressor wheel speed sensor. I really like those. That would be cool information to show when we're doing other kinds of testing, like we were talking about last night on the manual wastegate controller versus an electronic wastegate controller. If we had a speed sensor on the turbo, we could show what the turbo is doing, what the controller is doing, and then by result, what is happening to the turbo when it's adjusting the boost. And also, the cool thing is, because we were talking about we want to keep that boost consistent, that's just a regulating device. But if we do go from a stock cam to an aftermarket cam and we're making lots more power and we're still making 7 pounds, a lot of people think that the turbo speed is the same, but that's not necessarily so. So having that turbo, the impeller speed would be kind of cool. I also like the Arby's Market Fresh sandwiches. Those are good. I love the fact that you're budget minded. Everybody is. You almost have to be. Even guys that are rich that could spend all the money in the world, they had to save money at some point unless somebody just gave it to them. What's the max lift cam I can run on my stock Gen 6? Your question should be, what is the max duration that I can run on my stock Gen 6? The lift value is going to be a function of your spring and retainer to seal clearance. And the duration is going to be a function of your piston to valve clearance. So which one of those things are you worried about? What do you think of the $100 Amazon eBay turbos? I've never run a $100 one, I don't think. We've run stuff that's pretty inexpensive, and all of the turbos that I've run so far have all worked. I've only ever had one turbo go bad on the dyno, and it went bad on startup. So all the other ones have lasted for a really long time. Most people in California make $1 million a year. I don't even know people like that. Got an eBay T3, T4 hybrid turbo, my Cherokee. It works great. Tip to save cash, don't get married. I wouldn't trade my wife for all the money in the world. I guess duration, I was looking for an aggressive cam and something that sounds good. Yeah, the lift isn't the concern because at maximum lift, the piston is going to be an inch or two away from where the cam is, where the valve is. So that's not a problem. Duration, look for something that's 230 degrees or so or less on the intake, and the exhaust is less of a problem. Guess what? It's time to go. I got to get all my stuff ready. How was the mic today? The mic was better, right? Because I selected the proper mic because we're using this mic and not that mic up there. Not the mic and Ike. And now that I know that, when I go down to West Tech and use my laptop, I'm going to select the proper mic so I can use the mic that I plug into my laptop instead of using that one, which tends to be problematic. It is a long 2 minutes. Get back to work, Mike. What's the biggest cam I can run on my stock LM7? Same thing. It's going to be in the low to mid 230s at 50 on the intake. We have openings at work for mechanics, 100 grand a year. Do I have to have my own tools? And can I do YouTube videos on it? But it needs to be $1 million a year because I heard somewhere that everybody in California makes $1 million a year. Thompson blast plates. Thompson Performance was founded in 2014 in Las Vegas, Nevada, in order to produce, market, and sell the inventions of master engine builder and inventor Rick Thompson. I don't know if I could self-promote myself like that. Okay, Casey, your injector showed up. Good. And on that note, it's time to go. You guys go on, get your projects done. Come on, get your work done. Milo and I are going to go take care of our business. Huh, Milo? No, don't wake up. Don't wake up or anything. You can kind of see him down there. Huh, Milo? He doesn't even lift his head anymore. Get your projects done, get something done, whatever you're going to do. And then hopefully when I come back and see you guys, I'll be somewhere else. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will see you all either tonight or tomorrow.